Breakthroughs hosted by Bimal Shah, the CEO of Raj Parth Achievers. How are you this evening, Bimal?
Great. Awesome. Thank you for having me here. Excited
Oh my
about
gosh.
the topic today.
I'm always fired up to start the week off with you. And we've changed the time to Tuesday nights so that everybody out there can ask questions and really get engaged because this is very, very good information. You can, if you do ask a question in the chat, then you will receive a complimentary copy of Bamal's book. So I highly encourage questions. It's also an opportunity for us to network and connect with one another. So, Bimal, what is our topic for this evening?
PPP forgiveness. So, a lot of clients and a lot of people, they have received the PPP funding, but their PPP loans have not been forgiven yet. And many times they don't know why, or they have not received any notification from the bank, or they have tried it, and they have no idea, if they got declined or they didn't hear back. So there's a lot of confusion out there for the PPP forgiveness, and this is what I want to discuss today. That regardless of which bank they have gotten the money from or where they received the funding from, we can process their forgiveness directly. So there's a link, bit.ly/PPP forgiveness, if you can post that. So they can start the forgiveness process right there, right now, if they want to, do that. And as they're listening to this. Now, here's the reason many banks have not done it, or bigger banks have not done it. And this is, I'll try to explain the law of money. Like, how to, if you go to any city, which are the biggest buildings that you see?
Empire State Building. Was that what you mean?
No, like in a city, like if you go in a downtown area, some of
Okay.
the biggest buildings or the large buildings are usually banks,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
Okay. So what I wanted to explain to the audience is how banks make money. So, for example, if you deposit $1, okay, how does the bank turn around into $10, $20 from your dollar that you deposit at the bank? So the bank is only required to take about 15 to 20 cents maximum out of your dollar and keep it that as a reserve. Right now, the limits have been lowered to about 11 cents. And, you know, the remainder, what they do is they turn around and give it to someone else as a loan, right? So that 80 cents that they turn around and give it, they turn around and require them to deposit back into their account in that bank because they're lending the money. Then the bank takes 16 cents out of that 18 cents and then has, about 64 cents. And then they turn around and take that 64 cents and lend it to someone else. And then they keep doing that until they exhaust, you know, the reserve requirements, and then this is how they multiply. So if you just add up, they've just taken your dollar and turned it about $6 to $7 right away by just changing hands. And it was not even their money; it was your money.
Okay.
So, so many of the PPP loans, the major banks, that there is a 1%, because the way the PPP loans worked is that you get the funding, and then you'll be forgiven, so it becomes a grant, and you no longer have to pay it. Now, banks make money on interest and deposits, right? So that PPP loan comes with a 1% interest for 5 years. Now, that 1%, believe it or not, for the banks is a lot of money, because they can turn around that 1% and multiply it so many times. So that 1% is money for them. So which is why many of the banks and some of the big banks, I've seen that their PPP systems are not at all structured well. They don't get back to their clients. They don't respond. There's no customer service. There's no information. And many people who receive the PPP funding from some of the major banks, they're still in a limbo as to how they can apply for forgiveness. Some of these believe this, some of these big banks don't even participate with the SBA and the direct forgiveness because they want that interest.
Okay.
They're after And you may think it's 1%. What is this 1%? Why is this 1% such a big deal for the
Mm-hmm.
banks for 5 years? It is, because that's how money multiplies for banks, and that's why they're bigger. So, but some of the community banks, small banks, or some other direct sources, they just want the PPP to be forgiven, and they participate, and we can get these. No matter where you receive the funding, we can get this forgiven for you. But that is the key. You need to start the forgiveness regardless of where you receive the money. They can go to that link, and if you don't do it, your loan will be due, your payments are due, and you're due 5 years worth of payments and interest. Now, a lot of businesses have already utilized this funding. So let's say, give you an example. Let's say you received $100,000, okay, in PPP, and you used up that $100,000 to give payroll to your team, or use that money for the purposes that you received, because the PPP was for payroll. So you thought that if I receive the money and I'll pay my employees, I'll be okay. But now you're in a position where your loan is not forgiven, and you don't have that money to pay it back. So you received $100,000. Now your payments are due over 5.
Oh boy. Ouch. Not a fun time.
Not a fun time, because now you have at least $20,000 to $24,000 due every year, which is 2 grand a month, and you don't have that in your bank, and you don't have that in your cash flow, and you're
Oof.
like,
So are you saying that you can make this pain go away?
yes,
Are you a magician?
no, but I know how to get this.
So how this is a huge topic. I mean, we're talking about eliminating 100,000 in debt right now. I'm excited about this.
Exactly, but people have received 100, 150, 20, 30, 50. They have received all kinds of funding. Now, the very first round, anybody and everybody got money.
Right?
Didn't matter, because everybody, have the very first round of PPP, people didn't have payroll, they submitted the information, and they got the funding. and
Okay.
and there's a problem there, because now that they got the funding, they used
Right.
up the money, and they have to apply for forgiveness, and they have to produce documents that were before they applied for the loan, and they don't have those documents.
It's all about documentation. So what type of documents does a business owner require in order to avail themselves of your forgiveness program?
So the main key documents are the payroll documents that you need to have, utility statements, mortgage interest statements, and all of those. But the key thing is, some of these banks, like the major banks that got the funding approved, and a lot of these, they have not even opened up some of the portals yet, when the portals were supposed to be open, 6 to 9 months ago. Okay. And so they are still in a limbo. Is the portal open yet? Can I apply for forgiveness? Can I do it right now? I have not received the email, and they're still waiting to apply
Wow.
for forgiveness. And I'm telling you, if they don't act right now, they're going to be in a big limbo, because the payments are going to start due right away, because it starts 1 year from the money they received the first PPP. So if you think, most of the PPPs, they originated in May
Hmm.
of 2020. And if they have not applied for forgiveness on that, come this October, there's penalties, interest, and all of that coming due, even on the first PPP loan.
Well, of course, there's no, I mean, it's a harsh reality.
It is.
So, I mean, when they got this money, they obviously knew they had an obligation to repay it because they signed documents, right?
No, so they got the money thinking that I will get this forgiven and I won't have to pay it back. Now, they haven't gotten it forgiven as of yet.
That doesn't sound like a very clear distribution to me, because if I'm going to take money, I would either I sign a piece of paper that I'm paying it back. So why, in my opinion, it's just my observation. I'm not an expert like you are, but it just seems to me to be a little bit of a, it's a little dicey. Is this
Right.
this is going to drive, this is going to upset a lot of people? Am I wrong?
No, it already has, because they have not received how their loan gets forgiven, or they have not applied for forgiveness and they're going cranky and upset and fearful and scary. I got 150, I got $200,000 in the first PPP, and I have not applied yet for
What's the
forgiveness
timeline? What's the timeline? What's the deadline to apply for forgiveness?
before October. Like before, like this is the first PPP. The second PPP they have till December.
So
Uh,
you're saying in a 30 days, if they don't apply, they're going to have a big problem.
Yeah, because the payments are going to come due and the loan becomes due. And a lot of these banks are actually banking on that, that these
This is
people,
terrible. This is really upsetting.
yeah,
We have to do some social media on this because we got to get the word out about this because there's people out there that aren't going to know about this deadline. But now what are you going to do to help cure, to help? What are
some
the chances? How does it work?
so what we do is whether they applied with the bank or whether they got it with banks that participate, we would first try to get direct forgiveness from the SBA because it's much better and much cleaner. And we would work directly with the SBA and get, so we are not involving the banks, because the banks, some of the bigger banks, they're kind of like, okay, we don't want your loan to be forgiven. We
Of
want
course not. Why would they?
right, because they can
Like,
collect that interest payment and make money off of that. So they should start. I mean, that by end of October, they should have actually gotten the forgiveness. So they should start right now. And this is on the first PPP. Okay, the second PPP is this December if they haven't yet applied. And so right now there is a link where people can get started, people can put in the information and they can get started in the process. We can start working on that process. Now if their bank is not a participant, then we'll work directly with that bank. But I can tell you some of these banks, they have intentionally messed up the system so that when you apply for forgiveness, their systems will not work and they will make you go around in circles because they want to see that you pay back interest.
we need to yell this from the rooftops, okay? That you're literally you know what I think you are? I think you're a business firefighter because you're literally preventing forest fires of businesses. I mean, this could ruin someone's business.
Yeah, because if you imagine if as a business you received $150,000, you spent the money, paid your employees, and now you have you've not applied for forgiveness. So now that 150,000 is becoming due, and you have payments due, and that loan is only a 5-year loan. So
But
you're
but but, but let me ask you a question. If I'm hearing you right, if I got the first round, quote unquote, of PPP, and I don't apply for this forgiveness by the end of next month, then I could get slapped in 4 years with a debt of the amount that I took last year.
yes,
Okay, so everyone, this is critical information, and I will announce this at the summit, and I will post this replay because to me, this is emergency information. This is
yeah,
emergency information, and I'm so grateful to you for sharing it with us, Bamal.
yeah.
So, is it expensive to what do we, if you don't mind me asking, what is the business owner looking at budget wise? And I don't think it matters. Anything less, I mean, is it five,
It
six
is
hundred behind?
peanut. It
It's
is
peanuts.
peanut. It's peanut.
Okay. So this is a no brainer. I urge everybody to reach out to Bamal right away and to have a consultation with him and to look at this tool right away called PPP Forgiveness and take.
It's the link at the end is APP, not
Oh, I
PP.
wasn't sure if that was a typo. Let me correct that. No problem. So
Right.
it's APP, no problem. And no worries. So everybody click on this link or copy the link tree of Bamal, which is also shown on your screen. And if you took a PPP first round, you better get into Bamal's office yesterday. This is such a gift for our community to have you bringing us and delivering us this type of critical information on a weekly basis.
Right.
So we're going to put the word out big time, Bamal, the Laws of Life Network. And I cannot thank you enough. We don't have any questions from the audience. So, what is your number one law of business breakthrough from tonight's content?
Tonight's, this is fire, this is emergency. Like, if you this is bottom line, like, you're taking on a debt that you didn't anticipate. And the second thing is, already spent the money on giving it to your employees, or you spent it on the business, and you don't have these funds available in the bank to pay it back. So this is going to come, and this is not a long-term loan. This is like a short term, so the monthly payments on this are going to be astronomical. So if you do not get it forgiven on your PPP, the time to act right is right now, because I seen a lot of people, they still haven't gotten their PPP forgiven, the first and the second, and they're still struggling. Oh, I haven't done anything on the first PPP as of yet. And in the first round of PPP, the way it was during the prior administration, anybody and everybody got the money. So that even is a problem, because some folks got the money, they spent the money, and now they don't have the documentation that is required to show that they got the money properly before the funding. So
All right. Well, Bamal, this is hugely beneficial information. I will continue to cascade it to the Laws of Life Network. We appreciate you so much. And thank you, everyone out there, for watching. And I invite you to watch the Laws of Business Breakthroughs every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. Thanks for watching.
thank you, Blanca. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Bamal. Amazing information.
Thank you.